Well, warm welcome to this talk. Now, Module 4 of the British government's COVID inquiry has just begun. This is the long delayed and postponed module looking at vaccines and therapeutics. And I must say I'm a little surprised by some of the content that's already been released. Now, the inquiry did seem to go to some lengths to distance itself from these comments on these videos that it has released. But let's just watch the videos now and then we'll have a think about it in about 5 or 10 minutes.
Because I've had experience in the past with medical things that went wrong, I was quite worried about the jag. But eventually I thought, well, to see my mum get the jag. But after I got the jag, I took terrible migraines. I was taking convulsions. I couldn't even pick up a phone. It could have been done a different way. There was no support there when anything went wrong. Well, that was from my experience anyway.
2-3 days after the booster, I started feeling a bit dizzy and unsteady. It got worse over time until one day I just passed out. The following day in the morning, I felt dizzy. I called my sister to come over and she found me unconscious in the bathroom. I was taken to hospital. It was a couple of days later when they discovered that the clot had burst on the cerebellum. When I tried to tell the doctor that I think my passing out was to do with the vaccine, and the doctor's attitude was, they've never heard of it. I don't like being felt sorry for, but when people look at me that way, it really hurts. Vaccine's been good for many people, but for those who've suffered because of it, there needs to be an appropriate way to be able to address that, not to just tell you you're imagining it.
I had the first vaccination in February 21. This triggered a life-threatening rare 1 in a million drug reaction called Stevens-Johnson syndrome. It was like chickenpox and it covers you. And then all your skin starts to fall off. From the top of your head to the soles of your feet, you're burnt. I have had to pay for my treatment. I was encouraged to have a booster. I've got CCTV cameras and I could see myself in the chair in the garden having a seizure. Nobody connected the seizure with the vaccine. So again, I was encouraged to have another. And I was very ill from it. Said, I'm now so ill, I can't see me living long enough to fully recover.
Thought I'd do the right thing, safe and effective, stop transmission, and had the vaccine. 3 weeks after having it, pains in my leg, so I couldn't drive. Straight in hospital, confirmed a blood clot in my leg. My health quickly deteriorated, seizures, collapsing. It's been a nightmare. I got no quality of life. I can't work. Everything I've built up the last 30 years is just gone. I'm struggling every day. The reactions I had, night sweats, palpitations, collapsing, seizures, are something you should go straight to A&E for. You know, if you've had the vaccine and then you get a blood clot a couple of weeks after, more care should have been taken, not just said, oh, it's a coincidence.
I got my COVID vaccine and within an hour I was in bed. I couldn't get out of bed. I contacted my doctor. They wrote likely vaccine reaction in my notes. That was the clearest thing that was said to me, really, for 15 months. I couldn't go to work and I couldn't do my job. My doctor said to me, we've had no guidance from the Department of Health. They haven't told us what to do with people with a vaccine injury. So eventually I got in contact with a consultant neurologist. So he then diagnosed me with post-vaccination syndrome. I eventually managed to get medical redundancy in 2023, just 2 years after the vaccine. It's been a horrendous time. But there's also been these slice of people who've been affected by the very thing that was meant to help us. And to not help me or the people like me just seems so cruel.
My dad developed Guillain-Barré syndrome 2 weeks after receiving his first dose of the COVID-19 vaccination. This is a rapidly progressive paralysis, and within days, he was unable to move. Dad did not respond to the usual treatments, and he suffered multiple relapses. My dad spent 7 months in hospital. He had to learn to walk, eat, and talk again. So meanwhile, Dad, as a retired pharmacist, He strongly believed in the benefits of the vaccination programme, and he went on to receive his full course of COVID-19 vaccinations despite his illness. He described his unfortunate situation as collateral damage of the COVID-19 pandemic, and he said he took one for the team. His neurology consultants, they encouraged him to apply for the vaccine damage payment scheme. The VDPS claim was rejected as he was not deemed to have met the 60% disability threshold. He lost motivation to appeal against a system which he felt so monumentally was flawed. On the 31st of October 2023, at the age of 65, my lovely dad took his own life. Our family is completely, utterly heartbroken. We feel the vaccination and the rejection of the vaccine damage payment scheme are the indirect cause of Dad's death.
Well, I think you'll agree with me. Quite interesting to be on an official British government inquiry. Suicide, bereavement, adverse reactions, horrible reactions to the vaccines, gaslighting and poo-pooing by medics. Just another coincidence. We've had one heck of a lot of coincidences lately. We've had one heck of a lot of correlations, of course. People trying to do the right thing did come through quite strongly, and official failures also came through quite strongly. Now, you'd have to watch this in the context of the whole video for the inquiry, which is about 2.5 hours long. But the chair of the inquiry did appear to try and distance herself somewhat from these comments. The inquiry has already pointed out that adverse reactions to COVID vaccines are rare. I would have thought the purpose of the inquiry was to decide that, actually. Let's hope there's been nothing pre-decided, but the inquiry is long and exhaustive, and it is remarkably expensive. I don't have the latest figures to hand, but it was an awful lot of money. The video clips did somewhat reflect the official narrative position of what people would like British culture to be, perhaps at the moment, but further than that we really can't comment. Let's just look at where this came from, so you've got the links. So there's the Every Story Matters project from, and this was just released. Now, I know this has got a date of October 2024 in it, but it's just been released to the public yesterday or the day before, as far as I know. And this is from Biology Phenomenon, who's covered a lot of this in the past. He's covered some very good stuff, Dave, independent researcher from the Scottish Inquiry. Do click on his link there as he goes on covering the British Inquiry as well. And if you've got time, very good stuff from the Scottish Inquiry that's been covered in the past. YouTube full coverage of Module 4 vaccines is here, so you can actually watch the whole thing. Now, this Module 4 analysed 34,441 stories, if you like, personal reports. And what they actually did was they went round the country, and it appears to be a reasonably representative. They took information from Scotland and the north of England and the south of England and Wales and Northern Ireland. But they did take 34,441 stories. Now, of course, we've just heard a few on this. Let's hope, and I don't know what's happening on this, but I'm hoping that the whole the whole 34,441, the 34441 stories are released. 34,000 plus stories, anecdotes of personal times during the vaccination and the COVID pandemic. Let's hope they're all released, so independent researchers can adjudicate how objectively the government has chosen to release, or the inquiry has chosen to release data as a whole. We would hope they're all going to be released. So there we go. It's from across the UK. Already I've noticed in the document that's associated with this, there were those for whom the topic of coronavirus vaccination was the main topic they wished to raise with the inquiry. And if we've listened to some of the appalling accounts of vaccine injury on this channel, that won't surprise you at all. And also, page 4, it said we heard fewer stories and experiences from people who said they had taken the vaccine and were happy with their decision. I think that means they heard more stories and experiences from people who said they had taken the vaccine and were unhappy with their decision. And that is the link there for the video for the personal testimonies that we have seen. So quite a bit more to come on this. We'll reserve judgment at this stage, but let's watch with interest and see what happens. But for now, thank you for watching.